New report has revealed that children in the UK are some of the most addicted to social media apps in the world. TikTok's getting a lot of blame for this. Apparently they're on it for more than 2 hours a day.
Oh, I bet much more than 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Well, according to this Parental controls company, the figure has increased by 11% on the previous year. That's as the study also found that 50% of respondents specifically use TikTok. So we're asking one of those questions that you sort of know the answer to already. Do our children spend far too much time on the apps?
Yes. Anyway, moving on.
Well, that's it.
Let's talk to social media expert Alan Stevens and family journalist and broadcaster Julie Cook. Morning to you. Julie,
morning.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think they use it too much. I see it in my own home. My daughter is 10. She would be on it 24/7 if I allowed her. I try to monitor it. I, put limits on it. I watch what she's looking for. But my worry, I read this report, and my worry isn't so much the time they spend on it, but more the influence it has. And I suppose that is related to time. But TikTok in particular, I actually wrote a piece this week about loads of tweens, so children aged 9 to 12, are obsessed with TikTok videos on skincare, and they will listen to anything anyone says on TikTok. They will put retinol on their face 20 years too early. They will put anything on, do anything these tween influencers say. And my worry is the absolute influence these people on TikTok have on our children.
But if that concerns Julie, why has your 9-year-old got a phone that can access TikTok?
Good point. She has a phone because she comes back on a bus from school. So I like to know where she is sort of at the end of the day. So that's why she has a phone. But yeah, in the evenings and the afternoon, I let her play a little game on it. She plays a game called Roblox. And also TikTok, is something they all watch. And that does sound like I'm a terrible parent letting her go on it. I'm well aware. Believe me, when I had my children, when they were young, I said, I'll never let them have a laptop. I'll never let them have a phone. I'll never let them go on social media. And unfortunately, the way the world is, and tech being so much a part of Generation Alpha, it kind of creeps up on you. And that sounds like I'm sort of saying, oh, well, it's not my fault, but it's just how it is for a lot of young people and for parents.
I mean, Alan, it's probably common sense, isn't it, to conclude that, yes, they spend too much time on it, but what can we parents do about it?
Oh, well, that's the tricky part, isn't it? And, of course, because, they're going to do something. When I was young, I was in my bedroom listening to Rolling Stones records, and my parents didn't know what I was
Look how you've turned out, Alan.
Exactly that. But I'm not so sure it's such a bad thing. There are some really good things on TikTok. I think it's how they're using it, and I think it's what they're looking at. And I think the thing is parents need to have an idea what their kids are looking at. Good point about not using the right sort of products on themselves and so on. But interestingly, there are some very educational things on it. They can learn a lot. They can learn to dance, certainly. And there are some. They've got to be doing something with their time. It's a case of knowing what they're doing. That's the important thing.
I tell you what worries me, Alan, about things that I have seen on occasion on things like TikTok, is it's all nonsense. You mentioned the dance thing there. There are how many hundreds of thousands of people doing dance moves and things.
True.
It's absolute pap, isn't it, to be honest?
Well, I know. We say that, of course, we're of a generation that might say that. But the thing is, a lot of people use TikTok as a search engine now. Half of the TikTok users in America use it as a search engine in preference to things like Google and YouTube. They find there are how-to videos. And they say those little video snippets that teach them how to do something are actually very useful.
Yeah, and they're also getting their news that way, aren't they, Julie? Does your 9-year-old get an idea of news just in little tiny snatches on TikTok?
They do. She was, coming across things. Again, I do monitor what she looks at. I sit in the same room as her. I don't let her sort of go off in another room and do it. But she saw things, for example, about the problems in Israel and Palestine. And we then had to have a conversation that was perhaps a little bit awkward. But also, in a way, I was sort of proud of her for showing an interest in a sort of political problem somewhere else in the world, albeit it very difficult to discuss. So yes, I agree that with our other guests that it does have its positives, and I agree it's their search engine of choice. Things that we use like Facebook or Google are seen as a bit old person for the young sort of Generation Alpha. This is their method of looking for things. So I'm not saying let's get rid of it completely. I'm just saying we really do need to monitor what they're watching and make sure it's age appropriate.
That makes it much more about parental control then, doesn't it? Doesn't that mean you've always got to be watching over your children's shoulder to see what they're doing, or confiscate the phone off them at certain times? Alan?
Yes, it does. I mean, the thing is, you should know what your kids are doing all the time. You can't monitor them 24/7. Of course you can't. But it's a case of knowing what they're doing. They've got to be doing something with their time. They're not watching television these days. They only watch television about 2 hours a week. So they're doing something. Parents need to know, and there's a responsibility on the social media companies themselves to clear off improper content, and that's very important too.
We just need to lock them in a room with a book. That's what I say. Alan, Julie, thank you very much indeed. I've no patience with it all. I'm turning into a right old...
No, but if you were a parent, you'd have to have patience with it all.
I wouldn't. They wouldn't have access to it.
It's something that they would, you see, wouldn't they?
Give them a tablet or a phone on their 16th birthday. Congratulations, here you go.
Yeah, it's easy.
Go and read a book. GB News contacted TikTok for comment, and whilst we wait for a response, the social media giants have previously said it does not allow children under the age of 13 onto its video sharing app.
Yeah.